Hello and welcome to a very, very special premiere edition of Token TV Plus Developers Corner. So this is a brand new show that we're going to start doing, and the aim is to have it go out weekly, and each and every single week we will have a different developer and often from different projects, and we will analyze in some detail some of the things that have been happening within their project, and we're going to use things like GitHub to see these actual things happen. So without any further ado, my name is Cryptosi, and I am joined today by the man they know as the rock star from PIVX. His name is Warrows. Warrows, it's so good to have you. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. So Warrows, I guess to the members of the PIVX community, you're a well-known figure by now, but just briefly, for those of us who don't know about you, could you give us a little bit about your background and how you got into development?
Yeah, so I'm a French guy, and I had an academic formation in computer science. Worked for a few years for big companies. And then at some point, I started looking at the PIVX open source code. Well, before that, of course, I was interested in Bitcoin and had a look for a few years. Just played around, but never did much. And yeah, at some point, I started looking at the PIVX Github and made 2 pull requests, which were accepted after some work, and then I was asked to join the team as a junior developer.
Oh, excellent. Okay, so you have recently been promoted from a junior developer up to a core developer. Could you tell us a little bit more about what sorts of roles this entails?
Yeah, so it's not much as a role change as natural progression, I guess, for someone who spend time working for the project and keep his investment going. So yeah, it's basically spending a bit more time reviewing pull requests from other developers and participating in debates and technical choices.
Okay. All right. So what we've done for this particular interview is that we've picked out 3, well, I'm calling them flashpoints that we had during the past few weeks or so. Well, these ones only happened to happen in the last few days. So we picked out these 3 flashpoints. We're going to link them in the description, so anybody listening to the podcast can then go into GitHub and actually see how the events unfolded. But what I really wanted to do, Warrows, was get your thoughts and feelings on how things unfolded and where you can see these situations going from here. So the first one that we've got actually happened on the 5th of August, and it was something that was reopened by a dev named Spock, and it was to avoid the unnecessary minting of a private coin. Now, when I read this, I wasn't sure, but could you explain to us, is that referring to orphan stakes, or what was that actually referring to?
It actually has nothing to do with orphan stakes. It's a very technical point, but when you are spending a ZPIV, at some point before this change, so in the current code, there is a kind of mint which is happening, and it's useless, and it's dropped in the few code lines down. So the change is to just not do it, and it improves a bit performance when spending.
Okay, so what are we talking about? Something that would make spending a little bit less computationally heavy?
Yeah, but I didn't run numbers yet, so I can't tell you how much the gain is. I guess it's not so much, but we are always looking for ways to improve as much as possible. So this is one of these ways.
Yes, yeah. So I guess as the old adage goes, every little helps. So even if
Exactly.
it's a small thing. Okay, right. Okay. Does this mean, because Spock was actually quite a well-known developer, and does this mean that Spock is back with PIVX?
I wouldn't say that just from this change. You know that we are an open source community, so anyone is able to come in, do a pull request, propose some changes, and they will be reviewed by the team. And that's what is happening here. Spock spotted a mistake and proposed the change which we are reviewing.
Excellent. And it looks like the issue is not quite resolved yet, but it looks like it's quite close to being solved. So
Yeah. When you pick an open pull request, of course it's not merged yet, so that's it. But yeah, if you see it merge in the coming days, then you will know it's in the next release.
okay, so let's move on to the second situation that we want to analyze, and it looks like it's mostly your own handiwork, and it's quite a big change. And the change is to add GMP big num support for zero coin library. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about this request?
Yeah. So you know that the zero coin project was actually designed for Bitcoin at the beginning.
Yeah.
And at some point, before I was here, the PIVX team decided to bring zero coin, known as ZPIV, in the PIVX project. And
Yep.
the original design uses OpenSSL, which is a cryptographic library for its fundamental big numbers. And there is some shortcomings to this library, and one of them is its speed. And I wanted to try to change OpenSSL with GMP, which is not a cryptographic library, but an arithmetic library, which is really only mathematics, and is supposed to be a bit quicker. So I tried to do the change, and after some work, I succeeded, and I had to do some tests to compare the two of them, and it seems to be actually quicker, like 2 times quicker in some condition, and almost the same in some others. So I made the pull request to propose the change to the team, and now it's following the normal process, and everyone is giving its point of view. And if there is some changes to do before merging it, I will do them.
Yeah, because when I saw this, I was pretty much blown away. The numbers are quite impressive, because it looks like pretty much you've cut the time down in half. So those are some massive efficiencies. But this actual portion of the computation being done, how much of the total time does this portion account for? So what I'm trying to say is, will regular users see a real difference in efficiency when using ZPIV?
It depends about which part of ZPIV you are talking. Because if you look at, for example, when you are only running a full node, the PIVX core wallet, and let it turned off for a few days, and you have to turn it on and sync again, then you are going to verify all the transactions which happened during your offline time. And
Yep.
this almost doesn't change, so you won't see any big difference for this. where you can see a real difference is in the mint process, which is actually, yeah, the time for minting is actually cut in half. So when you are changing PIV to zPIV, then it's 2 times quicker than before.
That's awesome. That is an awesome change.
But
looking through,
we also have to evaluate, because it might differ on the hardware you are using, because this kind of libraries don't use exactly the same implementation on whole hardware. So if you are using a Mac or Windows, or if you are using some different processors like ARM with a Raspberry Pi or stuff like this, you might not see the same difference, and we have to test them and see that everything is smooth.
Yes. So looking through the notes here, it looks like you've tested it on a Linux 64-bit, and these are the results you've got. It looks like Random Zebra's reviewed it, but that's all so far. So what you'd really be looking for is for people, somebody with a Windows machine or a few Windows machines and then a few Mac machines to come in and go through the same tests that you've gone through to see how the library performs on those systems as well.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's brilliant. Do you envision, or has anybody said about any kind of drawbacks to using this different library? Are there any possible drawbacks that you guys have identified yet?
Well, nobody spoke up about this in the pull request yet, but there is some security concerns since we are changing stuff in the cryptographic library. So we have to make sure that everything runs exactly like before. Yeah.
Excellent. And do you know roughly, I know it's difficult, but do you know roughly how long do you expect this kind of, let's say, testing phase to last before you can really merge this particular request?
Oh, I can't say. I have no idea, because it all depends on other developers' free time to test it and report on it. And if there is any shortcoming or change to do, I can't imagine how long it will take, because I don't know what they are yet.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, it's a brilliant request, and it'll be great to see it come through. And I'm sure all the people who are using zPIV will be happy if their minting time is cut in half. Obviously, if it doesn't work so well on Windows, that serves them right, I guess. Yeah, so that brings us on to our last issue, which is not quite a pull request. It's actually a UI suggestion. Those of you who have not used GitHub, it is the devs would like to say, I don't know, you could correct me if I'm wrong here, Warrows, but the devs would like to say that if you've got a suggestion that you'd like for the actual PIVX wallet, that the GitHub is the place to make it be known. Is that about right?
Yes, it is. It's a place where we sort our suggestions and issues publicly, and like anyone can join GitHub and create an issue. Of course, we would prefer if it's technical-minded people who submit the issues, because it's easier to discuss them. But yeah, technically anyone can do it.
Okay, so I'm just going to quickly describe this one. So basically, there's a PIVX user called Strontium. He's been around for a very long time. He's a well-respected member. He is actually quite technical. So I guess it's helpful that it's him. And he would like the Masternode tab to give more information for new users. So I'm not going to read it word for word. The description, the link will be in the description. But to summarize, what he basically wants to do is when you click on the Masternode tab, he wants to give new users a lot more information, because at the moment the information is quite limited. So you're expected to know what's going on. Now, I think this is quite a useful thing to add, but Fuzzballs, who's another developer, feels that you can get the information elsewhere, which is absolutely right. Well, he explains that you can get it elsewhere. Now, what were your thoughts on this, Warrows? What were your thoughts on adding more information to the masternode tab in the wallet?
Yeah, so putting more information in the wallet is a difficult question, because when we change stuff, of course, we will also have to update this information, and everything which is written in the wallet goes through the translation process, which is long and can delay the release process of the wallet. So every time we have to add information and text in the wallet, it's a concern. And that's why Fuzzballs doesn't really agree with this change. And yeah, when I read this conversation, I popped in and I suggested that we open a web page instead of a pop-up in the wallet UI, which would allow to maintain the text from another place than the GitHub. But this also poses its own. You can hack a website and stuff like this. So trying to open a website is maybe not the most secure thing to do, and it's also technically different on every system. So it might be some code to maintain, which would not be the best too. So
yeah,
we will have a discussion about this idea, and we will see what comes out.
I guess there's quite an obvious attack vector, really, isn't there? Is that you have a website that's supposed to be explaining how to do the masternodes on what masternodes are, and it gets hacked, and somebody puts up something like, yeah, send your private keys to this address, and then your masternode will be set up for you. And then we have a deluge of people running into Discord complaining that they've lost all their PIV. So I guess I can see the issues that are with that. But can we discuss just briefly how you feel about the current system for making these suggestions, and if you feel like we could have a better system whereby maybe you had 2 or 3 representatives in the Discord who kind of filtered out the ideas and then would put the ideas forward on behalf of the community? Do you think something like that might work better and stop, I don't want to say spam, because it's not spam. This was a great proposal by Strontium. But do you think it's a good idea to have a filter where 2 or 3 really technical people in the Discord kind of filter out the ideas? Do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah, I think it's an excellent idea to have some maybe people from support, or I don't know, active community members who would have some time to be really in touch with the Discord and know what issues people are encountering, and at the same time be able to communicate them efficiently with the devs. That would be great. And that's actually what Strontium seems to be doing right now.
Okay. Yes, because I knew that Series was involved in that. So we're on the right track then. We're on the right track.
I think we are, yes.
Right, excellent. Right, so finally we've got 2 more quite complex questions which have been suggested by community members. So the first question is about a strange event which happened, I think it was on the 15th. My notes say the 12th, but I'm quite sure it was the 15th of July, when the network stalled for about 50 minutes, about 48 minutes. Can you explain to us what happened, and is it something that we should be worried about? And is there a way to stop it from happening again?
So I don't actually know why it stopped for 48 minutes. Well, actually, it's just that no block was found, and it's kind of a natural occurrence of proof of work and proof of stake system. in PIVX, the difficulty algorithm is tuned to have one block every minute, every 60 seconds, but it's a mean, so we can't guarantee that it's going to exactly happen every 60 seconds. Sometimes someone finds a block 10 or 30 seconds after the previous one, and sometimes it can take a lot longer than that. But what's important is that it's all right in the long term, and that no one is waiting too much for its transactions to go through.
Yeah, am I right in remembering that the same thing happened with Bitcoin some time ago, and the wait was something like, it was like a day, between like 20 and 30 hours. Is that right?
Yeah, it happened several times in the Bitcoin history. If you look at Bitcoin, where the block time is supposed to be 10 minutes, sometimes you wait only 1 minute, and sometimes you have to wait hours, or in a few rare occurrences, like a day, yes.
Yeah, it has happened that way. Okay, so it's not something we should be worried about. It's just the natural ebb and flow of the proof of stake algorithms that we've got.
Yeah. If it were to happen more often, then we could start to worry, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm not aware of it happening before. Maybe it has, but yeah, it's not been an issue. So yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, and the final question, because I know you're a busy man, the super block seems to be moving forwards quite a lot. So this particular month, it seems to have come around 5 days earlier than we had planned. Is there a reason for that? And is it something that we should be worried about? And and can you explain a little bit more about why that's happened?
Yeah, so the super block is happening every, I think it's 42,000 and a few hundred blocks. So it's supposed to be every 30 days also. But as I said, sometimes the blocks are coming later than they should, and sometimes they come earlier. So if a lot of blocks are coming earlier, then this compounds, and the super block is coming earlier too. But why this is coming so soon? There might be several possible explanations. I don't know which one is the right one. Maybe it's only natural variance. It would be a bit exceptional, but it's possible. Or maybe it's someone who was not staking before, who started to do it and brought more staking power to the network.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's one of two. It could be natural variance, or just because we have had quite a lot more ZPIV being compounded. That's the reason why we've been harping on about how our privacy is the best, because we've got a massive pool, a big chunk of our overall PIV is now stored in ZPIV. And do you think that because of that move, that's what's causing the super block to come so early this month? And if that is the case, will it regulate itself back out over time?
Yeah, maybe it's due to people changing from PIV to ZPIV staking to no staking and back to one of the two options. Maybe it's related to this, and if so, I guess it will resolve by itself when we successfully implement a fix for the orphan issue.
Oh, okay, right. Okay. All right, then, Warrows, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for explaining all these things so well. I'm looking forward to having you on the show again as soon as possible, as soon as you can drag yourself away from coding. But is there anything that you'd like to share with the community about, I don't know, future developments or things that you're working on?
No, I don't think I can share anything right now.
Okay, right. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Warrows, and thanks for being the first guest on this
Thank you
this show. Thank you. I'll speak to you soon.
See you.
Thanks. Bye.